and hello good people of the internet, it is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures in Woo Woo. In this episode I want to talk a bit about positivity yet again, but just at it from a different angle. First of all, I think I have sorted out, well I may have sorted out, I will know after this video, what is the problem with my framing, where my head always seems an awful lot lower than it should be. And what I think I've worked out is that my, sorry for technical camera talk for people who don't care, my DSLR has only got something like 90% coverage of the sensor, which means that the view window here is only showing 90% of what actually the sensor is getting, which means there's a 10% above my head that probably isn't framed. So when I have it framed up somewhat nicely on my screen here, there's an extra 10% going above. So what I have on my screen here is my messy Sunday morning hair that just doesn't want to behave. It's just hitting the top of the screen. So I suppose when I go and look at this video later and it's not, or is, then that might solve the problem. So that's my latest kind of thing that I think is going on. We'll see. Look at the state of my hair. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is the whole notion of positivity in relation to some things I've given out about before, with regard to positivity in New Age and this kind of forced positivity type thing. But first I want to show you these, which isn't really going to work too well. But my wife bought me these. These are a new pair of sunglasses. But what you won't know from the black and white is that they're actually rose tinted. So I'm deliberately going to be wearing rose tinted glasses as part of my choice to view the world positively. Incidentally, with regard to my eyes, now that I just have a thing, what I noticed on my computer this morning is that the font display on my Windows computer was terrible, and I was kind of looking at thinking my eyes were going really bad or suffering whatever. And then when I messed around with the settings, it all came back in clear. I was like, oh, maybe I've been wrecking my eyes with these terrible Windows settings, you know, that clear type stuff that's on it. And because what I noticed that even if I bumped it up to like 180%, the font, it was still doing this weird kind of blurry, sharpy thing to it. So it didn't seem that it was just that the font was so small. But hopefully, I'll see. I'll leave it at those settings. Again, hoping, fingers crossed, I will be able to get my eyes tested this week. Some other businesses in town here have been opening up. So we'll see. Anyway, positivity. The thing about when I'm talking about positivity now and seeing the world from, making a choice for it to have a positive reaction to it, it's different. Well, I hope it's different. The idea is different than what is kind of usually purported or kind of driven in the whole kind of New Age thing, which is this kind of positivity, but it's almost like it's a blind positivity. It's deliberately seeing the world as positive even when it's not. It's this kind of forced positivity. And you see that an awful lot in law of attraction, where I'm happy, and deep down, I'm terribly unhappy. It's not a kind of forced lie. It's not lying about the world. That's the kind of thing that I found in an awful lot of law of attraction, New Age, even Abraham Hicks, all of that kind of stuff. Even then Stuart Wilde in The Miracles, his book and his kind of approach to it, is an awful lot about, in a sense, lying to yourself and trying to fool yourself. And there is something in that can work, that whole fake it before you make it. But I think that kind of affirmations and mantra and this kind of forced positivity in face of negativity isn't helpful an awful lot of the time, and it can kind of make you feel bad, and it can lead to things as well like the victim blaming stuff that we've talked about before many times here, where if something doesn't work out for you, it's your fault for thinking the wrong thing, for not being positive enough, for not being open enough, and all of those things. So what am I talking about when I'm saying making a choice to be positive? It's not to ignore the terrible things in life. It's not to ignore the hardships. It's not to pretend that life is this Garden of Eden, perfect, everything is right world where there's no shitty people, there's no terrible kind of tragedies, where there's no trauma in the greater world and in your life. That you're not pretending that everything is brilliant. You're not looking at the world and go, oh, this is so wonderful. Look at everything being perfect. What I'm talking about is looking at the world and your life with its imperfections, but being grateful and appreciative of it anyway. And that's the kind of choice that I'm trying to cultivate in myself about this positivity and having a more positive outlook on it. It's not in the pretending that my life is somehow amazing all of a sudden. It's not kind of forcing myself to ignore all the bad things in the hope that they go away. It's looking at all the bad things. It's looking at all the good things and seeing it in a more balanced view. Which that thing I talked about in the video a couple of days ago, where I was saying that one of my kind of straws that always broke my back, where that would be the final snap, would be this kind of idea where things, milk would spill if I was making coffee. And it happened a lot, and it was obviously just been, as I said, just possibly just being clumsy and being in a bad form and forcing things. But to kind of look at that and go, well, there's 1,000 good things that have to happen for me to spill the milk. It's like there's 1,000 good things that need to happen for me to have a bad day. The electricity needs to work. The the person in the who makes the electricity, the factory, all of that has to work. At the factory, it's electricity made in the factory, the plant. All the things that have to happen right and go in place and work out perfectly for that factory to exist, plant, for it to come to my house, and all that, to make this coffee, the refrigerator, all of the kind of greatness that went into inventing that, having it going, it's working. For take out the milk that I'm going to proceed to spill. Not to labour that point, but it's not about going, oh, the milk didn't spill. Life is perfect. Milk never spills. It's about when the milk spills, still trying to see, from like in a reality transurfing point of view, what's the advantage? What's the good thing here in sometimes a terrible thing? What is the kind of little hope that I can focus on? And it's the bit in Them, my graphic novel, that is the thing that saves the main character, Roman, in the end. Spoilers. But this whole idea of it going through and it's getting worse and worse and worse for him, and he's always constantly focusing on the negative affirmations that he's repeating to himself about how the world is, about how he is, about what people have told him about the world. And so this is absolutely colouring his life to the point that he is totally and utterly surrounded by these negative zombie-like apparitions that he has created from repeating over and over to himself shitty things. And then there's this kind of moment where he realizes, through the hypersuggestion, through the magic, through the idea from the 47s, that there's a different thing you can focus on. And by focusing on the different thing, the more positive thing, the thing that is the advantage in the situation, you can see a path out of the negative. And it doesn't necessarily change the situation, though in Roman's case it does over a period of time, because he starts focusing on the good things. And I even know myself that by focusing on the positive stuff or whatever, it changes me and it allows me to have more kind of moments of gratitude and appreciation, and you see more things to be happy about or whatever. And I mean, it is the old trick. And I mean, we all know that if you could make yourself happy in the situation you find yourself in, then you're the master of the universe. But it's just we don't want that. What we want is that external factors to change so we can be happy. We want this thing so we can be happy. We want stuff out there to change so we can be happy, rather than being happy in the middle of whatever is going on. So I just thought it was important to kind of my brain again, that word, to kind of bring home that point of, to make that a bit more clear. What I mean about that is by not in a kind of forced positivity of pretending that things aren't, or that things are wonderful all the time. It's not that kind of, the whole thing that was going around YouTube at one point where everyone had to be really positive about everything and secretly their lives are falling apart. My main goal in life is to be as honest as possible in my podcast, honest as possible in my art, honest as possible in my dealings, and that has to extend to being as honest as possible with myself. So I don't want to lie to myself in order to try and kind of new agey, wishy-washy pretend that the world is a wonderful place, because it's clearly not in many ways, but it clearly is in many ways. And that's the kind of thing that you miss when you equal cynicism with kind of intelligence, or debunking with intelligence, or skepticism with intelligence. There's kind of a dark road that you can end up going down, where being kind of disillusioned is seen as a good thing and the right thing and a realistic thing. And no, I'm not pessimistic. I'm optimistic. I'm a realist. I'm a realist that the world is a terrible place, but it's not. It's wonderful in many, many ways. So the positivity I'm kind of promoting and trying to cultivate myself is looking at the darkness of the world, but being grateful for it anyway, rather than descending and giving into the darkness and allowing it to take over, as it does the character in the graphic novel Them, that it just surrounds them and engulfs them until it nearly suffocates them, which is where I certainly was with my negative thinking and my lack of appreciation and my lack of gratefulness. So if that sounds like something that you would be into, I mean, it is proper hard work to do, but it's very rewarding, and it has massively changed my appreciation of the world. So it's me as the magician, as the artist, changing myself, which then reflects out in the world and changes the world. So good people of the internet, I hope I have cleared that up rather than making it kind of worse, but this is the nature of these things. So good people of the internet, until our next adventure, be well, and may you see always the advantage even in the darkest situation, and may you have less dark situations, and may we grow and develop into happy people and a more happy society, more well balanced. May our futures be bright, and may our best days be ahead.